Hey everyone, my name is Shanice and welcome back to my channel. Today I will be reviewing the recent movie adaptation of Blonde, which came out this past week on Netflix. It is, of course, an adaptation of Joyce Carol Oates' 2000 novel of the same name, which I haven't read, but I do own. I made it this far before I wouldn't say I quit forever. I do plan on picking this up in another chapter of my life, but I don't know, I wasn't vibing with the style so much, and it's very daunting, and now I have a job and I just don't have the time. So the plan originally was to read the book and then compare it to the movie. That didn't happen, so I'm just going to review the movie. And what a movie it was. It was directed by Andrew Dominik. Dominik is most famous for the 2007 movie The Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Frost. He also has this other movie called Killing Them Softly. Both of those films star Brad Pitt, and Blonde is produced by Plan B, which is also Brad Pitt's film production company. Playing Norma Jean / Marilyn Monroe is Ana de Armas, who I am pretty sure is going to get nominated for the Oscar. Don't know if she's going to win. I think maybe Cate Blanchett might have something to say about that, but I think a nomination is due. Also starring in Blonde are Adrien Brody and Bobby Cannavale, Sarah Paxton in a very minor role, and the incredible Julianne Nicholson, who plays Norma Jean's mom. The film itself is a little bit under 3 hours. I think it's 2 hours and 47 minutes or something like that. And considering the very brutal subject matter, it's a lot. Personally, don't think it needed to be that long. I know the book that it's been adapted from is around 700 pages or maybe 800 pages, but I don't think that the movie needed to be this long. I think it felt a little bit overstuffed and it couldn't really catch its breath. So I will start off with the good, and I pretty much have two things to say. One is Ana de Armas, who plays Marilyn. She's phenomenal, and she got no breaks in this movie. She had to be on, completely emotional, a complete victim in practically every single scene. I don't think any scene in here was easy. She had to portray vulnerability in every second of this film. And the Norma Jean / Marilyn that we see in this film is somebody who doesn't feel totally confident. She doesn't really know her voice yet, and she has a tough time standing up for herself, and even when she did, the people around her wouldn't take her seriously. So Anna did a really great job of showing that restraint in her eyes and her facial expressions without dialogue. You can just see, you could tell through her eyes just how much she's holding back and how much she just wants to be liberated, but she can't. She's restrained and shackled to her role as a woman, as the industry, the film industry, wants to keep her and see her as. And sort of alongside the performance given by Ana de Armas is also the costumes, the recreational aspects of the film. They did a really great job of getting the choreography, of getting Marilyn's voice. Wasn't exactly correct, but it was close enough and completely immersive to me. There were some scenes where it was pretty uncanny. And I think casting Ana de Armas, who is from Cuba, to play Marilyn Monroe, this icon of white femininity basically, is interesting because the image of Marilyn Monroe was based on Rita Hayworth, who in reality is of Spanish descent, but had to hide that in an industry that didn't really know how to market her ethnic background. So becoming Rita Hayworth was an erasure of who she was. Norma Jean becoming Marilyn Monroe was also an erasure of who she was, and then it just gives it another layer. Casting Ana de Armas, it's like a reversal of Rita Hayworth. So I don't think that's why she was cast. I think it's just because she was very good in her auditions, and I'm not giving Andrew Dominik the benefit of the doubt in using this logic for his casting decision, but because it is what it is, I think it gives it an interesting extra layer. And then the other good thing about the movie that I did like, and something that I haven't really seen or read other people talking about or praising, that's Adrien Brody. He played Arthur Miller, who of course married Marilyn Monroe for a short time, celebrated American playwright, we know who Arthur Miller is. When Adrien Brody came on, it almost like brought the movie to life. Sadly, in a movie about Marilyn Monroe, it was Arthur Miller that impressed me the most. I did really love Anna's performance, but I felt like when the Arthur Miller character, as portrayed by Adrien, came into the story, I think it was the first moment where we were given a chance to see a little bit more nuance in the Norma Jean character. She wasn't really given that opportunity any other time in the film, despite the films and the story's premise of trying to dissect the fake Hollywood persona of Marilyn Monroe, of peeling back the layers and letting us see who she really was beneath it all. We actually don't, except some of the parts with Arthur Miller. I think for the majority of the movie, I was just craving the moments where we would get to see Norma / Marilyn using her intelligence, because she was incredibly smart, but again was never really allowed to use that in her roles, wasn't really allowed to explore her craft like she wanted. She was studying method acting. She was incredibly talented, again very smart. She loved reading, she loved Chekhov. She really knew what she was talking about, but no one took her seriously, including Arthur Miller. And so that scene when she's explaining her interpretation of the character that she's going to play in Miller's newest production, he is very condescending, but she disarms him and even enlightens him in his own artistic process. So you can also see how much she might have contributed to his artistic growth, and those were so interesting to me. I sort of wish the whole movie was just about them two. Like, it didn't need to be 3 hours, it didn't need to cover her whole life. Just give us a snippet and let us see her as an intellectual, because I feel like one of the reasons she was attracted to Arthur Miller was because she felt like, oh, finally I can explore this with someone. And then I think the movie did a decent job of showing us Arthur Miller's betrayal of that promise. So yeah, I think their moments together were some of the best parts of the movie, and I give all the credit to Ana de Armas once again, but also Adrien Brody. And so unfortunately this is pretty much where the positives stop. Well, you know what, I will give some credit to the opening, to the beginning, where it focused on Norma Jean's childhood. I think there was some promise there, and then it got derailed with the rest of the movie. As for the rest of the movie, it is relentlessly abusive and tragic, and yes, the book itself is about trauma. I mean, it is exploring what Norma Jean had to go through to become Marilyn Monroe and to achieve fame and success. I get it. I get that the movie is an adaptation and is therefore supposed to reflect that, but I think there's always a way to sort of reel it in for a film adaptation. There was zero room for subtleties in here, namely with the father, the missing, or not the missing, but the father that abandoned Norma Jean, who she clearly pursues in some of the men that she dates. There are definitely the sort of prototypical father issues of her conflating romance with the men in her life that she feels like, well, abandon her, and it's not that she feels like that, they did. I felt like the movie was really hitting you over the head with those themes, especially what Marilyn calls the men that she dates, which is just, I hate it. I absolutely hate it. And stylistically, it was also over the top. There was some really weird and unnecessary editing transitions and editing effects. Half the time I felt like Andrew Dominik is just trolling us. Like, he's just joking, basically, at this point. I don't think he's taking this adaptation seriously at all. And what could have been a real opportunity to tell a more feminist story from the perspective of Norma Jean, Marilyn Monroe, I feel like the movie, I don't know about the book because, like I said, I haven't read it, but the movie definitely seems to just reinforce the very skewed perspective that we have on Marilyn Monroe. All the men here are like cartoon villains, and again with these like over-the-top editing choices. Like in one scene, the famous subway grate scene for The 7-Year Itch, we see like an entire crowd of men being creepy and like looking at Marilyn as this moment occurs, and in the film their mouths are distorted and they look crazy. And again, there's no nuance there. You don't need to distort their mouths for us to be grossed out by how they're responding to this, or the mere fact that they all crowded around this shooting to take a sneak peek at Marilyn Monroe, you know? It's already creepy enough. We don't need to do the extra stuff. And because all the men were caricatured, that in a way, I don't know if intentionally or not, made the character of Marilyn Monroe seem like the unhinged one, which betrays the entire premise of the story. I think there was a way to explore Marilyn Monroe's trauma and what she endured from a quieter, more intimate perspective, instead of just letting us tear apart the public persona, because we know the public persona. Tell us about what we don't know. Give us the quieter side. Give us more of Norma instead of the Marilyn icon that we have seen for forever. And even in the subway grate scene, not only are the men's faces distorted, not only is the moment clearly showing us how creepy it all is, but then the camera itself just zooms in on Ana de Armas and does the thing that is being criticized. So it's just a contradiction. There's a scene with JFK which is disgusting. I know it's intended to be disgusting. It did not need to happen. I just felt like mortified for Ana de Armas. She did not need to be doing this at all. Like, did we need to see that? We knew that was gonna happen in that scene. We didn't actually have to see it. I just think it's completely degrading. I also felt like the movie didn't take a breath from the victimhood. I think it was just trauma followed by trauma followed by trauma from beginning to end, and it's 3 hours long. It just felt like it was plowing through scenes and events to try to cover everything that happened in the book. Whereas I feel like you could have had a composite scene or something, or shorten something, have composite characters. The book itself is obviously not a biography or a true nonfiction. It's definitely still fiction, so I don't know why the movie couldn't take some liberties too. I just feel like if the premise was that we were going to see more of Marilyn Monroe's inner world and how she really felt, the movie didn't do that. It just reiterated the lies and the images that we already knew. And more than once, it just felt like the scenes and the pictures that they were recreating were just good challenges for the team to like recreate a Marilyn Monroe pic. It just didn't feel inspired or anything. It was more, like a challenge, like, let's see if we can match the choreography exactly like it was, or let's see if we can match the picture and the lighting exactly as it was. And yes, they tried to build a story and give those moments context, but to me, they didn't really pay off. And lastly, I will say that too much of the style in here seems like it's trying to do like a Terrence Malick kind of thing. It's like wannabe Terrence Malick, philosophical voiceover type of effect. It also has like a talking fetus, and there's been criticism of that, of it being like an anti-abortion thing, and I can see how that could be problematic too. But I just thought it was cheesy. I don't know if that happens in the book, but I don't think it really worked for the screen. But yeah, sadly, I just expected a lot more from this. I was super excited to watch this. I thought the trailer was really good. I know some people didn't like it, but I actually thought it looked really good and really promising. And I was excited to see Ana de Armas. But yeah, I guess this film just follows in the tradition of recent, really garbage biopics with stellar lead performances. Yeah, overall, if I would rate it, I would give it 1 star. That's what I gave it on Letterboxd. And if you haven't read the interview between the director Andrew Dominik and Christina Newlands for Sight and Sound, I'm gonna link it down below. I would say check it out, but be warned, it just puts the film and the filmmakers into perspective. At least it did for me. Just not sure what Andrew Dominik was thinking, pretty much. Yeah, disappointed with that interview, or on his part at least, and just in the movie itself, though it has really fantastic performances for the most part. And so thank you for watching. If you watched Blonde, I guess I hoped you liked it much more than I did. I would hate for you to have seen it and to have hated it too. But just let me know what you thought down below, and I will see you all next time. Bye.